Alrighty, and welcome back to another Eagle Eye Pod episode 10.5. That's right, we love our point 0.5 episodes so far this year. And boy, do we have a lot and lots and lots to talk about. Of course, this is mainly going to be focused on everything that's going to happen on tomorrow's matchup. Well, if we have time, we'll touch up a little bit of what happened on Wednesdays. I mean, there's nothing really more to say than uh, probably should have been a better performance overall. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Before anything, I think I should introduce, as always, my co-host, Mr. Dylan Jimenez. Dylan, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. It's spring break for me. I just hope this computer lasts me with the little difficulties we had before we started.
All right. So, Mr. Dylan's on spring break. Hopefully, those of you guys who are students are enjoying your guys' spring break as well. And hopefully, you guys are sitting down ready to kick off your Friday with a little bit of Club America action. Now, of course, the biggest news coming out of today was the lineup that we got. But before we jump into that, I think it's important that we talk maybe everything else that's been going around the club in regards to the team, in regards to rumors, uh, in regards to anything that really affects us in that sense. So, just real quickly, real briefly, I want to get your thoughts on, I think, the biggest news that we've got in a couple of days, which is a transfer rumor signaling that Morelia's Roy Diaz is going to be an America player next season after the World Cup. What are your thoughts on that, Dylan?
I think that's good. I think in the end, it's going to help us in the long run, just to give us a little bit more of striker depth, besides Henny Martin and Oribe Peralta, because obviously, if we're not using both of them. We're going to what seems like a 4-2-3-1 with just that lone striker up there and Mendes playing behind them. So in the end, I think it's good. I feel like Piojo can utilize Diaz. I think he's a talented player. He's shown a little bit of inconsistencies in my opinion, a little bit, but overall, I think he's an excellent player. I think he'll know what it means to put on America jersey, and he'll fit just great in America.
So I guess it's without saying that do you think we need a player like him at the club right now?
Well, I mean, I think it'd be like I'd bring a little bit of more rotation because me and you've always gone back to say that Miguel Herrera should just use that 4-4-2, something that's always been working. And we see him change it up a little bit whenever he doesn't have both Henny Martin and Oribe Peralta on the pitch. He's like I said, going back, it seems like it's a 4-2-3-1 a little bit. And so I think having him, it brings a little bit of more competition for the players, and I think it's better overall for the club too as well going into depth wise.
So do you think that maybe Rui Diaz is more of a player that would add to the depth and not really a player that you think could take a starting position? I mean, because if we're gonna bring in the caliber like Rui Diaz, wouldn't you want him to be a player that would make an impact right away, or do you want him to be someone that is more of the caliber of coming off the bench, using more of as a rotational player?
Oh yeah, I think he definitely will be a starting player. I feel like he'll take over. I think it's going to be a competition between him and Henny Martin. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, what Piojo sees in training, and and what kind of role he takes on too. With the likes of Oribe Peralta, we say over and over, it seems like he's in the decline and he's slowing down a little bit, but his work ethic's still there. It'd be interesting to see if he could also take over Oribe's spot too as well. If you see it with Diaz and Martin pair up top, but it's interesting to see that because whether or not if a rotation were to happen, it's a great bench option. There's three great bench options right there to whatever happens, whoever starts up top.
Interesting, interesting. Although I think, don't you think maybe we're getting a little bit carried away? I mean, we're what in the month of March. The next transfer window doesn't open until July, so I mean, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. And really, I don't think this is something that we should maybe be focused about. Like for something to come out into the news like that, I feel like right now, the team's good. I feel like the team we have right now is solid. I think if you add a Rui Diaz, maybe you have to get rid of one or two players maybe to fill in a gap that Rui Diaz, bringing him in. ultimately, I think right now it's just speculations, whether it's true, whether it's not. I think once we've progressed closer into the transfer window, and two, we have to see how this player can continue. Don't forget, he's had his injury doubts as well coming throughout a couple seasons that he's already been with Morelia. So, I mean, for the most part, I think it's a rumor, I guess, pretty nice rumor, but I think a little bit too early for us to even start speculating. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. It'd be nice though, after we had all those links with other strikers, such as Luke De Jong, Jackson Martinez possibly. And and then he was too at one point, I believe, in the transfer window, and I think the draft day too as well. He was linked to coming to America, so it's kind of good to see. It's not necessarily kind of, but like it is good to see him back on the radar for America. After you heard the rumors that towards the end of the transfer window that they are still shopping for a striker, and so that's something good to see. We'll just I guess like we said too, it's a little early to speculate. It's March, barely beginning March, and we still got a while till July, so we'll just see how this plays out till July too.
That is true. That is true. Of course, we got a couple of other players that we need to talk about as well. Injury updates. Last that we know of was Emma Aguilera got left the Clásico Nacional with a little bit of an injury. Has fully recovered, but Pio Herrera will not be risking him for this Saturday. So ultimately, the lineup has changed and quite dramatically in a sense, and we'll talk a little bit about that also. And Renato Ibarra too, who maybe picked up a knock and isn't. I mean, Pio Herrera doesn't really want to risk him as well. So those are your two players that are going to be going out to the Tribuna. What are your thoughts about these two? Do you think I think ultimately it's fair to say that Pio Herrera is making the right call in making sure that these two, even though technically quote unquote they could be 100%, Piojo doesn't want to risk them.
Yeah, I think it's good that Piojo doesn't risk them. We couldn't risk the chance of whether they be 100% or not. You can't risk the chance of that injury being aggravated again. So I think it's a good call. I think Piojo's making the right choice, and I could probably see them starting come next week too in the Champions League too as well, just to get them back in that feeling again. After being out a week, but it's a good call. I think we got that depth and we got the players that can fill in the position.
And that does mean too for Renato Ibarra, who I think me and you both at the beginning of the podcast, at the beginning of the year, excuse me, when we were giving our kind of thoughts about the team and how well each player was fitting in. I think we said a healthy Renato Ibarra is a happy Renato Ibarra, and he will produce that on the pitch. And I think that's it's a good move by Viejo, especially with a player so fragile like Renato Ibarra. You never really want to take a chance, especially when a player is finally trying to reach his prime with the America jersey.
Yeah, man, definitely. He's doing so well right now, and something that Johnny said too. Johnny still thinks that he doesn't see the full potential Renato Ibarra has, and so maybe we're gonna see more and a better Renato Ibarra than we have seen in these past couple of weeks.
Hopefully, hopefully. So that's pretty much all the news that I think we have kind of in mind. Is there anything else maybe I'm forgetting?
No, no, I think that's it, man. I think that covered everything.
I think so too. So we're gonna jump in right to what you guys came here for, the preview for the America Leon game. Of course, it's gonna be live at 7 p.m. Pacific time. It's 9 p.m. Central time for those of you in the East Coast. That is 10 o'clock at night. So pretty late game as always, as we're accustomed to in the Estadio Seca. Now, America, we're coming off a 1-1 result against the Clásico Nacional, and I'm just talking league play right here because we're coming off a pretty big victory against Staudo FC in the Conca Champions 4-0. But I think maybe we shouldn't really include that game in the preview because I feel like ultimately it was just a game that I'm not going to say that it didn't matter because it did matter. Of course, it's Conca Champions. But I think for the most part, I think it was more of a matchup where we got the result that we wanted. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't nice at all, but we can go into that maybe a little bit later if time permits. But I feel like we're coming into this matchup not looking as good as we would have expected us to be. What do you think? Dylan?
I
Uh,
lost you for a
oh,
second, man. Here we
okay.
go again. Here we go again, guys. I'm terribly sorry. My computer is moving slower than molasses, guys, and so I apologize. It's not Ivan's fault. It's my fault. So if you hear the cuts in and cuts out, then it's my fault, not Ivan's fault.
We apologize down here at the Eagle Eye Podcast for any technical difficulties. Of course, this is only really going to be reflected on the people who are watching live, we thank you so much for joining us. But of course, those of you who are listening to the podcast via iTunes or SoundCloud, don't forget, if you guys ever do miss an episode, we are on those platforms. So you can take us on the go wherever you need to go. So yeah, we apologize for that. For those of you who are listening through the podcast, you guys really won't be able to see it, but just know that we do have some technical difficulties. Now, Dylan, I ask you again, we do not come into this matchup as favorable as we want it to be. How do you think? Well, first of all, what do you think that's a fair assessment? Do you think that maybe we do not come into this matchup as confident or as, playing as good as we want to?
Just going back and touching on what you said about comparing the league to the Conco champions, I think they're two different feels. They're not anything can happen in Liga MX, and in Conco champions, you know, I think anything can happen too. But they're two different tournaments, so they're two different feels. And so like you said, yeah, I mean, we're coming off a big win, but then necessarily conclude to anything. I think it's two different fields. I think it's two different ways you perceive it and take in the game. But I think it's a little fair to say that not necessarily the favorites because of the way we've played here recently. Regardless of us being undefeated, still we've dropped what did we say last time? 8 points in the last five
Yeah.
games. Because we've
Yeah,
we've
yeah.
drawn we've drawn four, and we've only won one out of the last five, which not to me is not good. I with the team of this size, with the team of how big it is in Mexico, it needs to produce more than that. It needs to be better than that. And right now, I think the team's in a little rough patch. And like I said, we keep making the same mistakes that we've made in the beginning of the season that we don't need to still be making, overcomplicating things. And so it be interesting to see how it turns out with going into this game with the lineup that it has too as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and maybe I'll touch up on a little bit about the Conca Champions League. It's not that maybe we're menospreciando the competition. No, it's not by any means. I think it's the fact that if you look at the other Liga MX teams in this competition who had maybe the more tougher opponents, for example, Tigres had Toronto, Chivas had to go to Seattle. Like they had a very tough opposition. We have Tauro. This was technically the easiest matchup you could have gotten, and we got it. So I think for this sakes, I think we can kind of exclude ourselves and think, okay, we shouldn't focus completely on the CONCACAF Champions until we get to the next stage, which is going to be the semifinal, and that's when we should put everything on the line for that. And in the meantime, focus on the league where we need to be doing better. I think you're right. We're coming in a little bit of a rut, really. And I want to point something out because I think this is something that maybe I hope it's just a coincidence and it's not gonna, mirror the same thing that happened in the previous tournament. In the previous tournament, we were doing pretty good. We were ultimately looking like a very, very good side that could challenge for the championship. What happens when we go to Tijuana? We get that 1-1 result. We don't look as good as we did before prior to those matches. Something had happened, right? Something had happened. Cholos, we get to draw. Boom. The next week, we're supposed to play Chivas, unable to do so because of the earthquake. So then the matchup against Leon, which is going to be the following Wednesday, we go out there and again we don't look like the same team. Little by little, we start to go and fall into that rut, and ultimately, what happens? We end up with what we ended up last Apertura with a very poor Liga run. Now, with that said, I'm not saying these two things are very similar. I'm not saying these two things are alike. I'm just saying I'm noticing things here and there that are making me think something is going on. Whether it's on Piojo's side or whether it's on the player side, I don't know exactly what it can be. All I do know is that I'm seeing similarities in between these two things and these two patterns. And I'm just hoping because I think I think at the end of the day, something has to give in this matchup. Either we go out there with a win or we lose. I don't see us getting another draw. I think it's going to be one of those two outcomes. Either we get the W or we get our first L. And to be honest, I would hope that it's a W. But if we do get our first L against Leon, I think it could prove to be a wake up call. And I'm not hoping for an L, no, by any means necessary. I want to continue that unbeaten run, but I also want to get a performance out of these players. And maybe I know this is controversial. I know this is something maybe a lot of Americanistas will definitely disagree with me, but maybe we need a loss to kind of, put these players in the right mindset.
Yeah, no, definitely, dude. The same for me. I want to win. I want to win this Saturday, dude. I don't want to draw, because then that's going to be 5 draws in the last 5 games we played, and that's not acceptable for a club of this caliber, for a club of a team, the squad that they have can do. And yet,
Alrighty, it looks like we have a little bit of a technical difficulty, but I think I
we
know.
produce.
Oh no, keep going. Keep going, Dylan. Keep going.
Oh yeah, yeah, and so it's just what's wrong? Are our heads too high in the sky? Are we sitting on cloud nine and thinking that we can just cruise through this easily? Which I don't think we can. I mean, we still got a pretty strong schedule the rest of the way, and who knows what our matchup will be in the Liga if we make the Liga too. At this point, we went from what first to what was the third. So after this week,
Yeah, I believe
uh,
we are. Are we third? No, we're still second.
we're still saying, yeah. We dropped the place. I mean, like, not that that means a lot because I mean, I predicted that America was going to make the top three, this season, or top five. I think I was top three or top five that I predicted. But
Yeah.
still, I mean, this team has the squad, has the depth to do that. But yeah, what it just has me saying what's going on, and also it goes back to Piojo with his subs. I mean, where are the subs? I mean, are you making the subs at the right time? You know, I still think we haven't really found that player that can really, really make an impact coming off the bench that much.
I think some people would have argued that maybe that was Menes coming off the bench and making an impact and keeping Henry in that starting position, which we'll talk about right now because we're going to go into the lineup. But you're right. I feel like we were lacking an impact sub player. I think a player that could do that maybe is Ibargüen. Maybe once he gets more a little bit accustomed to everything, maybe we do go back into the tactics of bringing in Menes, or why not bring in Diego Lainez, who is someone that is fast, versatile, someone that could definitely change a game's face in an instant. So I maybe you're right. Maybe Piojo Herrera's tactics in regards to making substitutions is what's also crippling us in that sense. You know, and we could talk a little bit more about how we think the line is going to play, how we think exactly, the tactics are going to be after we talk about the lineups. But I think you're right in that sense. I think we need to go back and we need to assess not only what are the players not doing right on the pitch, but what is going on in the managerial side of things. There are a lot of people, a lot of Americanistas angry with Piojo at this moment, and is it fair to say that? Is it fair to, demand more out of this coach who has given us, a solid run and a solid performance too from an America, if you look at America's La Volpe's America to Piojos, it's a whole different world.
Yeah, I mean, where's Piojo that where he was when he had our first stint? I mean, if you go back to the Chivas game, when did Piojo decide to make a sub?
Yeah, it
Very
wasn't
very late in
until
the
late
game. Yeah,
70s. No.
yeah, and almost 80, close to 82, and
Yeah.
that doesn't give a player long to make an impact on the team. And let's be a little bit honest here. I mean, how much longer does Piojo have at America? After the World Cup, Osorio's out, and everybody knows that Piojo wants to go back to the national
But
team. And,
is he the
but
right coach to go back?
well, yeah, well, I understand that, but I mean, like everybody knows how bad Piojo wants to go back to the national team. I mean, Piojo even came out and said it whenever he came back to America. He said that in his contract, he has like a little clause that if the national team needs him, he will leave America for the national team. And so it makes you think too, like the season hadn't even started by then, and Piojo's already saying about going back to the national team. So it makes you think a little bit too, like how much does this mean to Piojo? Is this just a stepping stone for Piojo to go back to the national team, or is Piojo actually here to do what he did whenever he had his first stint with America?
You know what? Maybe at the beginning he did see this as a platform, but I mean, I think little by little you see that he is attached to this team. He is very, granted maybe his tactics in regards to substitutions aren't working, but I feel like he does have a passion for this club. He does have a passion for this because you see him on the sidelines. You see him, yell at the referees, contest every foul, and whenever we score, you see that Piojo Herrera that made so many memes. You see him celebrating, you see him going super piojo. And I don't think that's something you fake. I think that's something you live, and I think he has a passion for this team. I really do. I really do. You know, I never really saw him at Cholos, but I don't think he got to that point. I don't think he was like, this passionate in the sidelines where he was celebrating goals and, almost turning into like Piojo Hulk. I don't know if he was being like that in Cholos, but here you see that. I think he does have a sense of connection and commitment to this club. I don't somewhere in between him and the players there's just a little something going off that I feel like needs to get corrected because we have the talent, we have the ability, we have everything. It's just I think it's a matter of something internal, you know. But I think we've digressed. We've held long enough. Let's talk lineup. Let's talk the matchup. Let's preview it, and let's give our full opinion to the people what we think is going to be the end line for this game against Leon. You ready? I believe he is
Yeah, I'm
ready.
ready.
Then if we're not getting a response, okay.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. This is how our Águilas del América are gonna go. Going out on
Oh,
Saturday, tomorrow. Sorry, a little brain fart. Marchesín in goal. It's gonna be on the right back position, Paul Aguilar. In the center back pairing, we're gonna see Bruno Valdez with Edson Alvarez, and at left back, we're gonna see Carlos Vargas. Someone maybe we'll talk about a little bit who maybe needs to step up his game. In the midfield, we're gonna see William da Silva and Guido Rodriguez. Out wide, we're gonna see Cecilio Dominguez and Mateo Uribe. And up top, we're going to see Jeremy Menez play behind Oribe Peralta. So that is your starting 11. Dylan, what are your thoughts?
I think it's a good lineup. When I see this lineup, I see Edson starting. To me, I think other than besides
Other
Menez,
than
I
who?
think other than Menez, I was trying to think for a second. I don't know why I blanked on the lineup, but I think Menez and Edson have something to prove this game. I feel like Edson, not getting in a lot of starts in the league. Maybe he come off the bench, maybe he start in Champions League a little bit too. I think Edson has something to prove here because of the way things are being handled right now. The way Piojo's managing him, I think he needs to come out and have a good game. And we know he can have a good game. I think I've only seen him have one bad game, and in the America jersey, and that was that Pachuca game when he came off the bench. For Pau Aguilar. And so, I think he still has a lot to prove, being under Bruno Valdez and Aguilera too as well. And it'd be interesting to see how he takes it. I hope he takes it high and shows that he can play at this level still, and and telling Piojo that he's the option too whenever he needs it. Which Piojo obviously knows that he's an option, but it just feels like time and time again that sometimes Piojo just lets him sit on the bench with no playing time, and that he could be a difference maker. And for Menez too,
Hopefully,
I feel like
no, go ahead.
oh yeah, and Menez too. Menez obviously coming off the bench whenever he first started in the America jersey, he was doing great things. Obviously at those times though he wasn't 100%.
Correct. I believe
It'll show.
I agree with
And
you. You
yeah,
know,
and whenever he started his games too, he just seemed like a person that wasn't on the pitch. He would seem like he didn't understand what he was doing, and I feel like he can come out and have a good game now and do Menace things and just succeed.
Well, let's hope you're right. Let's hope Menace does Menace things because that's what we brought him for. That's what we brought him to do Menace things, to do freshman quality type things. And I think you're right. I think he's more accustomed. He's more used to the environment. He's more used to the stadium. He's more used to maybe the expectations, especially after the Clásico. And I'm gonna name you. You named two very good players who I think need to go out there and prove themselves. But here are two other players that I think need to step up their game, especially tomorrow night. I think that's two players that are go by the name Carlos Vargas and William da Silva. More Vargas than da Silva. I think Williams had a quiet season in regards to what he was doing last season in the Apertura. I think in the Clausura, he's been a little bit more quiet. Granted, I think maybe it's because he's picked up a little injuries here and there, as well as being played out of position in that left back row, which we know he can do if needed to. But granted, he hasn't really been a wow player for that sense. Carlos Vargas, on the other hand, who has been doing well, who had been producing some good qualities, now looks like he's maybe ran out of confidence. I mean, you saw what happened with air trophies in the Clásico Nacional. We've seen them be a little bit on the shy side. I mean, look at what happened in the Conca Champions. He was the first one to get substituted. You know, granted, yes, because Piojo wanted to do a more of attacking role, but it just shows you that maybe maybe he's our weak link. You know what? I don't even think he is definitely our weak link. And we thought maybe by this time he would have had a grasp on that left back position. I don't really know what's going on. I hope that for this game he steps it up and proves us all wrong. You know? So that's our lineup. A lot of controversial when this lineup came out though, because a lot of people are asking for Henry Martin to start up top with Oribe Peralta. What is your take on that?
I just think it shows that Piojo is actually wanting to use Menes a little more. I'd like to see Manny Martin start up with Oribe Peralta up top because going back to what I kind of said earlier, we're going away from the 4-4-2 when the 4-4-2 is something that has been working, and that's something that's gotten us the 3 points whenever we needed it. And so,
That's true
it's been
because um when it came down to last season, it was a 4-4-2 that was working great for us. And then Piojo little by little started, kind of going back to the 5-3-2 that we talked a lot about on the podcast as well. And then that's when you saw this America start falling down and not really being the best that they can be. And now with Piojo, kind of tinkering with the formation, going with this 4-4-1-1, it goes to show that maybe we should stick to that 4-4-2.
yeah, no, I mean Piojo shouldn't really be trying to necessarily experiment a little bit this mid of the season whenever you've gone four out of the 5 games without a win. They've all constituted to draws, and so this is something I think Piojo should really really look at more after the fact that the season's over. This is something that I wish that Piojo would have worked on if we had Menez in the preseason. I think the preseason would have been more better than right now at this point where the team is at right now. So, like I said, it's that slump, and Piojo's just using that slump to try something out, try something new out when obviously it's not working.
Interesting. I want to ask you a question because I see here that Christian has mentioned that he thinks that Menes with Henry is a better partnership than Menes with Oribe. Now, why would you think that people would maybe like the Menes Henry partnership better than the Menes Oribe?
I think because we've seen Oribe sit back a little bit more, playing a deeper role, like you've mentioned, and but I don't think Henry would necessarily fit that role because one thing that we saw, whenever they played that game in San Antonio, whenever he played with the Mexican national team, he played up top by himself, and that's something Henry's not accustomed to. And I don't think that would suit Henry. I feel like that would suit Oribe a little bit more
Yeah.
because Oribe is used to playing up top by himself whenever he's needed to.
No, yeah. You know what? Ultimately, I think either or partnership has something that wouldn't definitely work. I think the only true partnership that works perfectly, quote unquote, is the Oribe Henry one. Because like you said, Menes with Oribe, these are two players that are ultimately going to both be playing pretty deep sometimes to get the ball. You can only imagine Menes is sometimes picking the ball in our third of the field, and then you can only imagine Oribe Peralta doing the same. Going all the way to the center of the pitch just to receive a ball, and then you got no one really up top. Um, I think we need to find a way to play Menes with Henry and Oribe there. Maybe that means getting rid of center mid and just kind of giving Guido that whole center defensive mid role by himself. Do I want to do that to Guido? I don't know. I'm pretty sure he has the capacity to be able to fill and do that job, but I feel like it wouldn't be fair to just kind of automatically just throw him all of that responsibility without really having anyone to track back and help. Ultimately, I'm okay with this lineup as long as we get the result. I want these players to go out there and prove themselves on the pitch and really showcase that they want this W. Not only that they want this W, that they want to contest for this championship. Because, you know, we're playing against Leon. Yes, a lot of people have been like, well, look where Leon's at the table. But guess what? Leon's only 4 points away from us. You know, it's at this stage of the season where the second team is only 4 points away from the 11th team. So what does that say? That says that we need to start, you know, going and not making sure that people can close that gap on us. And I think the most important part to do so is to get these 3 points. Now, granted, Leon is coming into this matchup looking pretty deadly. In their last matchup in the Copa MX, they had a 4-1 scoreline against Celaya. Okay, it was against Celaya, Copa MX, not a big deal. But previous to that, they scored 3 goals at home. Against who? Pumas. So now it's questionable to see that, okay, this is a Leon side that's starting to feel themselves, that are starting to link up, and they're starting to get goals. The only positive thing that I can see from this is that, of course, they do have some injuries. You know, there is a doubt whether or not Boselli is going to play. And if he doesn't, that is the best news for America, because if there is one player in this league that loves to score against us, it's Boselli. So, how do you feel like knowing that Leon are coming into this one pretty confident because they have their shooting boots on at the moment and they know that we don't?
It's pretty nerve wracking to me to me somewhat, because time and time again, we've seen the team make the mistakes that we keep pointing over and over and over here on the podcast, and this is something that it's not acceptable. Is like, you hear me?
Like what?
Okay, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
because it froze on me. So,
No,
so
no,
I
no. Go ahead.
mean, yeah, I mean, it's just those mistakes, like I said, it's over and over again every game. Like you've always said too, complicating plays whenever they shouldn't be complicated. And back again, where's our shooting boots? We haven't had our shooting boots, and so it's nerve wracking to see the team that like Leon, who's doing good and have their shooting boots, to come into Azteca and just possibly show us up. And like we said too, it seems like the games that should be the easiest, we make the most complicated and get a very undeserving result whenever we know we should have came out with possibly the win instead of the draw or the loss.
Correct. Then I agree. And I agree completely. Um, Obviously, we're gonna have Mr. Captain America himself. It seems like every kind of American is Captain America from the U.S. men's national team. But we will be hosting Mr. Landon Donovan. What does that mean? I mean, I really, to be honest, I haven't really seen much of him except a little bit of his minutes that he had against Pumas. He looked like he was. He looks like he started to find his feet in the Liga MX. Isn't there yet? I would say Menes has adapted more than Mr. Landon Donovan himself. But do you think he poses any threat to us?
Um, I can't really justify to that saying that if he is a threat or isn't a threat, because I haven't really seen him play since he came out of retirement. I haven't seen him in that Lyon jersey besides just some videos on YouTube saying that he's made his debut and he's done this, he's done that. So I can't, to be honest with you, I just can't really justify it. I don't want to say anything without being certain, without giving him a look or two, or whether he uh, can be dangerous or not.
Okay, I agree. Okay, well, we can't really say yes or no without really seeing the guy play. But for the most part, I think this is a very good Leon squad, regardless of their injuries, regardless of whether Boselli is going to play or not. Obviously, they have players that can definitely come in and do the job. And that Mr. Landon Donovan will definitely have experience of playing in the Azteca. Maybe isn't 100% ready to play maybe the full 90 minutes in that high altitude, but could definitely pose to be maybe a threat in regards to a late substitution, late impact, or something like that.
Yeah,
So,
no, definitely.
with that said, what is it? I guess this is a very recurring theme. What is it that America needs to do in order to walk out with 3 points?
This whole possession a little more, obviously, besides Chivas, leading in that category over the whole league, I like to see the team hold the position, not position, the possession a little bit more, and just making simple plays. I mean, I've always heard it's hard to play simple, but that's what we got to do is play the simple play the smart play, the smart pass into leading up to a goal, which is going to be important against Leon.
Yeah, I agree. I think we need to be a little bit more simplified in our final third passing. Don't overcomplicate yourself. There's no need to do a fancy play when all you need to do is pass it to the player who's overlapping you or who's free and stuff like that. I think the more simpler we play when we get to the final third, the better we will to ultimately gain 3 points. Of course, like we said, the most important part of this is America coming with their shooting boots. It's us taking those chances because if something goes wrong for Leon and their starting 11 isn't suitable enough for them, they're gonna sit back like Tijuana and try to get the point.
Yeah, and I think a lot of teams are gonna possibly do that. After seeing what Tijuana did in the Azteca, against us. So it's very likely too. I think that Leon will sit back. And so basically we're gonna have to come out and learn how to break it down. Piojo's got to analyze what they're doing and make those adjustments that are needed in order for us to get that goal if they're gonna hold for that draw.
I think three things are gonna be very important coming up into this matchup. One, that we simplify our play up in the final third, which means we make sure that the pass is on target and we don't overcomplicate ourselves. Two, that we take our chances whenever those chances come, whether they're few or many, we make sure we take them. And three, Piojo substitution. In whatever case, the reason that the game is not going exactly 100% our way, if Leon are parking the bus and it looks like there is no way of going into goal, I think the people that he selects to be on the bench are going to be very crucial. And how and when he makes these substitutions are definitely going to be just as important as the players that go into the pitch. And I know it's maybe a little bit difficult, but let's speculate. Let's who do you think will be on the bench? I think it's fair to say obviously Oscar Jimenez is going to be on the bench with as our backup goalkeeper. I think we're going to see Aldo Cruz. I think we're definitely going to see Darwin Quintero on the bench. We're definitely going to see Ibargüen. We're definitely, I think, going to see even Diego Lainez on the
Mhm.
bench. I think he's
Yeah.
he's definitely going to make an appearance. Whether or not Piojo puts him in, that's a whole different story. We hope he actually does because again, he made his debut against Leon. Would be nice for the kid to come in and maybe potentially score a wonderful goal. And of course, we're going to see Henry Martin and Joe Corona. I think that's going to be our seven people on the bench. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. For some reason, if Piojo doesn't put Quintero on the bench, I bet he puts Pedro Arce on the bench.
Yeah, but I mean, he said that the only two players that are going into the stands are going to be Emma Aguilera and Renato Ibarra. So I think it's fair to say we're going to see Darwin Quintero, and as sad as it sounds, I think he's definitely going to feature in this matchup.
I think it's unfair to have Darren Quintero on the bench.
I mean, granted, it looked like he was going to be a better player after that goal he scored in against Saprissa and the Conca champions. But I mean, wow, he had a very poor game last Tuesday. So, hopefully, he can turn it around. But if not, Piojo, play Linus, play the babies. Come on, do it. So,
I don't think Johnny's gonna like you hearing that from you.
but no, I mean seriously, get him out there,
Yeah,
give him the minutes. I think he deserved it. He's waited long enough. Give him the time. Ultimately, how you coming into this matchup? Are you confident that we're gonna get the W? You a little bit nervous, or you a little bit like I don't really know at this point?
I'm a little bit nervous, but I feel like with this squad, I feel pretty confident too as well. But I mean, like I said, we tend to overcomplicate teams that we easily get the win for. Well, on paper, we get the win, but it's easier said than done.
It is much tougher than simulating a FIFA matchup in your career mode. That is for sure. So I'm going for a America victory. I think we're gonna get a 2-0 victory. What are you going with?
I go 1-0.
You're going 1-0. Okay, we are very unoptimistic. That's usually not our motto here at the Eagle Eye podcast. But I think the team's not giving us any other option at this point. Hopefully they turn it around. Man, I would love like an 8-0 against them. Haven't really seen that scoreline in a couple of years. Man, if anyone knows what year it was when we beat Toluca, I think it was like either 8-0 or 7 something. Let me know. But yeah, it's been a while since I think we've seen a very good performance from our team at home. The last one we had was against Morelia, and even in that game, there was a couple things that we took away that weren't so good. So hopefully, Leon come a little bit injured. Obviously, hopefully their big boy doesn't show up, which gives us more of an authority to push for that game and really get what it's what's supposed to be. And I just got a response from Christian. It was 2009 versus Toluca when we won 7-2 in the Azteca. Man, for those of you who remember that game, you guys will remember that half court goal, which I believe was it Rolfi Montenegro. I think it was Rolfi Montenegro who scores against Toluca from the halfway court. Um, I think that's pretty much it for the game. What do you have anything else to add?
No, I don't think we covered everything, man. I think that's good.
Yeah, you know what? Sometimes I come into these matchups a little bit, on the mad side, but I think after we record episodes like this, I get a little bit more pumped, a little bit more excited, and a little bit more optimistic. But hopefully the team can carry that and get the result that is needed against Leon tomorrow.
Yeah, hopefully, dude. Definitely.
Alrighty, well, that is a short podcast. It's about almost an 40-minute long, I would have to say. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. It's been episode 10.5. If you guys miss any live show for whatever reason, make sure you guys subscribe to our iTunes and follow us on SoundCloud, and you guys will never miss an episode, and you guys can always have us on the go. Huge shout out to everyone who participated in today's live broadcasting. Big shout out to our boys and our friends down at La Resaca Americanista, Christian. You know what Christian says? Quick Q&A. I think we have time for a quick Q&A. You got time for a little couple of maybe 2-3 questions?
Yeah, I got time for 2-3 questions real quick.
All right, Christian and anyone else watching right there, send in your questions right now. Send in whatever you need to ask us. While I continue my shout outs here, huge shout out to Mr. Prophecy, huge shout out to Mr. Lenin Guerrero Partida, huge shout out to every single one of you guys who have tuned in. And like I said, thank you to every single one of you guys who are listening and are part of the ever-growing community that we're trying to build here at the Eagle Eye Podcast. Let's see. We got our first question. Christian says, should Edson be starting? Should he?
I think so. I mean, given the situation right now, no Aguilera, and I mean, who else you gonna put there? So I mean, definitely should be starting. We've seen the kid play in the past. Whether it be for America or for the national team, and he has performed time and time again. And so this kid should be given a little bit more looks. And so I think Edson should be starting. Edson deserves it.
I say I'm more on the maybe no side, only because I think he hasn't merited enough from what Bruno and Aguilera have done. I want him to step up. I want him to be better than Diego Reyes. That is my goal for this kid. So I think the only reason he's starting is because of an injury. I hope he takes this as an advantage, as a way to kind of weave himself into the starting lineup for a permanent mark. Now, question again from Christian: Linus over Ibargüen? Question mark. What is your take?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Uh, I think given the state right now, I think Lioness over Ibargüen right now. I don't think we've seen enough of Ibargüen to to really
But have we
say that.
but have we seen enough of Linus to even say that?
I mean, yeah, I mean that's true too. So like, it's kind of in between. I mean, looking up and through the too. You know, Linus didn't have much playing time either because he was away at the U17 World Cup too.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get you. You know what? I'm going between Linus or Ibarwen. I am saying none. I'm going with El Hobbit Bermudez. For those of you who know who that is, you guys will have a little chuckle there. But who the now question comes from La Rasaca Americanista. Big shout out to you guys down there over in Mexico. Says, who do you think is the best player right now? And I think me and you both have that same answer. And I think we both know who our best player is right now in the season. On the count of three.
Oh, Darwin Quintero.
Yeah. Did you just say that one? I'm about to end this call, and I'm just about to do this by myself.
No,
Uh,
I'm just kidding.
no, but in all seriousness, I think me and you both can agree that our best player is Guido.
Guido, yes, Guido. There you go.
I think Guido has been merited the best player so far this season. I think he won't be the most flashiest player. He definitely won't be the player that's on the score sheet every single night. But I think the player that has carried the team on his back is definitely been Guido Rodriguez. So I really hope this guy goes to the World Cup. I hope Sampoli. I know you listen to this podcast. I know you are subscribed on iTunes, and I know you listen to this every day on your way to training. Make sure you call in Guido Rodriguez. He's gonna carry you guys to the final where Mexico will beat you guys ultimately. Okay.
Exactly.
So now, let's see. Who is the biggest America fan? Christian wants to know. Who is the biggest
Oh, that's
America
you.
fan
I'm
between
gonna have
me
to.
and you?
That's definitely you, man. Like if anybody doesn't know, going back to what I've told Ivan, I've found my love for the game at the 2010 World Cup, and I really started watching America when it was about 2011, 2012, and so Ivan's been loving America ever since he was born. So it's gonna have to be Ivan.
Yeah. So I mean, I've been an America fan since birth, since a baby. Um, I've never really known anything else but that. So yeah, I mean, as you guys see, I always try to rep an America jersey. I think I don't really have the biggest collection, but I'm always gonna try to showcase my colors wherever I go. And yeah, I have tons and tons of sad and happy memories of being an America fan. Recently, more happier, but as younger, they were more sad. But ultimately, it's amazing. So I think we'll get you up there, Dylan. We'll get you to be the biggest America fan as of yet. Okay, so another question: have you ever been to the Estadio Azteca?
No,
Dylan,
that's no, I have not.
that's a no. Okay, I have been to the Estadio Azteca, but I have never been to the Azteca for a game. I went last year to Mexico City. For those of you who don't know, I actually was born in Mexico City. Born in Mexico City, was brought to the United States when I was about 5. You know, the whole you hear a lot of those stories here in the United States, but I finally was able to go back about after what 15 years of not being back. And it was around the Christmas period. It was the day after America had lost the final against the Tigres. We went to the Estadio Azteca to get a full tour So we got to go inside um, we got to go inside the stadium, inside the dressing room, inside the stands, all of that. It was by far one of the most beautiful and amazing experience I've ever gotten. And I know that whenever the opportunity is presented to go back and actually go watch a game, I think it's definitely going to be on my top 10 list to do this year because you go there and you see the stadium and it's humongous and you can only imagine the atmosphere of it, whether it be a selección game, whether it be an America game, and you can just the stadium comes alive, you know. So definitely, I think something that I'd want to do. But in all fairness, I have been to the estadio, but not to go see a matchup. But still, beautiful memory that I always will cherish. Another question: if Piojo were to leave this season, like you were mentioning earlier, Dylan, who would you want him to replace at the end of the season? Who would you who would be the substitute?
To let's go ahead and let's just bring in Guatemo
Cuauhtemoc. But I
already.
mean, let's be honest. He's not ready. He's over there
No,
still
he's
trying
not
to get
ready. No.
reelected.
Yeah,
Why? I
I
have no
don't.
idea. Cuauhtemoc, I know you also listen
That's
to this podcast. Why are you going and do political stuff? Don't do it. Just come back. Come home. Come home. We're gonna treat you good. We're gonna give you some bombazos. We're gonna treat you right. Don't worry about it. Just you'll live even happier. Your hair will grow back. I promise you. So I
that's
mean,
a tough question. Yeah, I don't.
who
I don't know. I don't really
it's
have
tough, right?
nobody
I
in
mean,
mind.
who?
I don't really have nobody in mind.
You think we can convince Sir Alex Ferguson out of retirement?
I think so.
Bring Fergie back if bring Fergie back out of retirement if Piojo leaves. Also, huge shout out also for El Vasco Aguirre. Oh, okay. You know, that's someone who actually maybe wouldn't be such a bad coach because he knows what it is to play in America. He knows the institution. He's obviously been a very prestige coach going out coaching Atletico Madrid, coaching the Mexican national team, coaching over there. Was it in Asia, I believe? Yeah, I think he's definitely someone that America should maybe look into if and when Piojo Herrera does leave. Last question of the night: what position do you play and where do you live? Okay, Dylan. Where Well, I guess yeah. What position do you play, and where do you live?
My hometown is Sweetwater, Texas. I'm from the big state of Texas. You know, I'm a big Texan, so I'm also nobody might not like it, but I'm also a big Clint Dempsey fan because he's from Texas. So no,
The other Captain America.
yeah. So like, where I'm from, I mean, there was no soccer. There was no soccer. Ivan knows that. All that I had here was American football, football. In general. So like, you know, like I said, I found my love for the game at in 2010 watching the World Cup, and there's a field down the street from where I live, where you have like these small goals, like maybe the size of like an average window, and so it was nothing fancy. It's not relegation size, so we would just go out there and have a pickup game. Um, there was no positions. Only position that you believed in was goalkeeper, and somebody had to play goalkeeper, and I played goalkeeper a lot, and that's what I like to play. And so after I went to college, when I found the soccer team, the club team, they didn't have a goalkeeper, and I tried out for that, and they liked me at goalkeeper, and so I've played goalkeeper ever since. And so yeah, I guess you could say I just play goalkeeper.
Nice, nice. Goalkeeper. What position do I play and where do I live? Okay, let's see. I live in sunny California. Yeah, it's pretty sunny outside. It's usually for a while now. It's been a little bit dull and gray. But I live in the city of Moreno Valley. I'm not guessing a lot of people know where that is. It's in the Inland Empire. It's you know, a decent little nice. Oh, it's not even that little too, but it's a nice place. Recently just moved here about a year ago. Was living in Corona. That's another city in the Inland Empire. Um, But like I mentioned, was born in El Distrito Federal in Mexico City. Lived there until about I was 5 years old. So maybe a little bit more of a background story for me. And position. Funny enough, me and you play the same position. I am also a goalkeeper. I'm also a goalkeeper. That's always been my position. I found it when I was 10 years old at my cousin's birthday party. We were playing with a whole bunch of my cousin's friends, and there was no one who wanted to be goalkeeper. So I was like, all right, whatever. I'll be goalkeeper. I don't care. I went, I threw myself around, and I found out, hey, this is pretty fun. I like this. So that's where I came out of kind of my goalkeeper shell, and it is what it is now. So if anyone in the Inland Empire in Moreno Valley is looking for a goalkeeper, phone number will be listed down below. That's pretty much it. I'll ask you one last question, Dylan. Who is your favorite goalkeeper?
My favorite goalkeeper, it has to be Jorge Campos because he was short and I'm as tall as him, and so I like Jorge Campos because despite him being short, he's overcoming actually one of the best goalkeepers
All right,
for the
Jorge
national team.
Campos. Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. Not bad at all. All righty then. That is the last question of the night, and that is the last kind of segment of the podcast. I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Enjoy your Friday, enjoy the Saturday, and make sure that you guys go out there and hashtag Aguilas English for all your American needs. You guys know where to find us at Twitter at Eagle iPod. Also, make sure you guys follow us on SoundCloud and subscribe to us on iTunes like Sampoli does. Okay, so I hope you guys have a wonderful time. Dylan, thank you again for making the time and coming on the show. As always, greatly appreciated. Thank you to every single one of you guys who have supported us, who follow us, and who definitely listen to us on the go. We'll be seeing you guys very soon. Make sure you guys stick to us tomorrow. We'll have you guys covered with everything, live tweets, live reactions, everything. So make sure you guys do stay tuned for that. Arriba la America, and let's get the 3 points tomorrow. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and we'll be seeing you guys very soon. Bye-bye.